Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear the honorable jurists, participants, and audience, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. All praise be to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given us mercy and blessing, so we can gather together here for the final round of English debate at MTQE 2020. Peace and salutation be upon our great Prophet Muhammad SAW, who has brought us from the darkness into the light. I, Giovanni, will be directing.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm having trouble. Can I leave and then I rejoin again?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for the interruption. I, Giovanni, will be directing you to our contest today. First of all, we will introduce the board of juries. First judge, Mr. Yon Mahmudi. He received a doctorate from the Faculty of Asian Studies in Asia, Australian National University, Canberra. He wrote a book chapter entitled History of the Contemporary Middle East Leadership in Arabia and Libya, published by UI Press 2016. In 2018, he was invited by the Brookings Institute to a meeting of the U.S. Islamic World Forum, and he was also the interviewee at several international meetings on Islam and the Middle East, including in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, the Philippines, Turkey, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Australia, and America. Second judge is Mr. Abid Arobani. He was the semi-finalist of Battle of Brains, ALSA UI 2017. He was also the champion of English Debate UI Quranic Olympiad 2017 and also its best speaker. He is now the lecturer assistant for Usul Fiqh and Qawaid Fiqhiyah in FEB UI. The third judge is Miss Nadia Laila Fijria. She was the champion of International Humanitarian Law Debate Competition by International Committee of the Red Cross Indonesia ICRC 2018. She was the only Indonesia's representative for International Humanitarian Law Competition Chapter Regional in Selangor, Malaysia 2018. She was the coach for Universitas Indonesia Team C for ALSA UI Debate Competition 2019 and was the Vice Secretary of English Debating Society of Universitas Indonesia 2019. And the teams who will participate today is Team Kuwait, Team Nigeria, Team Sudan, and Team Bahrain. Before we start, can we do a bit of roll call of the Prime Minister? Are you there?
Yes.
Leader of the opposition?
Yes.
Deputy Prime Minister?
Yes.
Deputy Leader of the opposition?
Yes.
Member of the government?
I'm present.
Member of the opposition? Member
Sorry,
of the
but
opposition?
maybe he hasn't come yet, and until now, I intend to do that role.
Okay. Government whip?
Yes.
Opposition whip?
I'm here.
Okay. Wait a second. our motion for today's is this House believes that the best justice for a criminal act is to provide rehabilitation and not a criminal penalty. So, we'll start our debate by reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillah. This round comments. To open the case of the government, please welcome the Prime Minister. Are you ready, Prime Minister?
Yes. Yeah. Assalamualaikum
Okay.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Understandably, most of us would expect that removing criminals, those who would victimize others, from a community would be welcomed by the populace, and that both residents and their property would be better off as a result. However, there are collateral consequences that occur to imprisoned people even after their sentences are completed. And since most people who are incarcerated return to the same neighborhoods or very similar places as those who they were removed from, their presence in large numbers when they go home adds a substantial burden there too. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we remember that our government, released several prisons who were in prison under certain conditions. They were released because the government are afraid that they are the one that there will be a mass spreading of COVID-19 in prison. This shows how our prison is incapable of protecting the imprisonment for the prisoner. Our goal is we want to show that the best justice for a criminal act is to provide rehabilitation and not a criminal penalty. And we want to prove that imprisonment is not a sustainable solution to criminal. Criminal act is an act committed by a person that violates a law and which is punishable by the government. Criminal acts are offenses against the public which are punishable. It can be any act or omission or possession which possesses a threat to the public. Rehabilitation is a set of interventions needed when a person experiencing or is likely to experience limitations in everyday functioning due to aging or a health condition, including chronic diseases or disorders, injuries, or traumas. Example of limitation in functioning are difficulties to thinking, seeking, hearing, communicating, moving around, having a relationship, or keeping a job. My first argument is punishing the offender does not offer a sustainable solution to the community and also to the offender. Secondly, justice system in Indonesia isn't always just. Thirdly, adding to imprisonment or prison, adding to the burden on the state in terms of economy. And lastly, rehabilitation will give a sustainable solution. Going to my first argument, punishing the offender doesn't offer a sustainable solution. Why? Because I stated in our problems first that it will burden the whole community again when they're back. So they are only facing their punishment, but they don't know when or what are the faults or how can they change it. So usually imprisonment, the prisoner would be released and then they will not know how to build their life again after prison. Second, justice system in Indonesia isn't always just. First, we remember there are many cases, but I want to point one cases in particular. That is a case which faced Nenek Ashani, a 67-year-old woman, faced 1 year and 3 months in jail because she stole 7 wood, and she has to pay 500 million rupiah. Ladies and gentlemen, this shows how our law can be unjust. The importance of this, how prison is not a sustainable solution, is that from Nenek Ashani, we know that she stole wood because she cannot provide, she needs that wood so that she will not be cold. And in one story, Umar radiallahu an got a report from master about a maid who stole his food, the master's food. And then instead of Umar punishing the maid, he actually asked for the master to give the maid what he deserved, which is an increase in an increase in payment because he made still his food because of poverty.
POI.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. You said earlier law is not really just. So what makes you think rehabilitation serve more justice than the punishment itself? Thank you very much.
I'm going to explain it to my third argument. So the third argument is that my third argument is rehabilitation will give one a chance to learn more about his or her deliberating problems and first for one to learn how to change their behavior in order not to commit a crime. And so it is important because for a narration from Anas bin Malik reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessing be upon him, said, "Help your brother, whether he is an oppressor or is oppressed. Ansur akhoka waliman aw maglumat. Help your brother, whether he is an oppressor or is oppressed." So by this, the Prophet ﷺ means that if you, by helping the oppressor means that preventing them from oppressing another person. So rehabilitation is basically to help them not to commit a crime. So that's a preventive solution. And by preventing, we indirectly eliminating the amount of crime in society. That's all of my argument. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To respond the case of the government and to open the case of the opposition, please welcome the leader of the opposition. Are you ready?
Yes, inshallah.
Please.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grady, and I today represent the opening opposition team as the leader of oppositions for this debate round. Let me begin my speech by stating that the opposite team doesn't believe that the best justice for a criminal act is to provide rehabilitation and not a criminal penalty. First of all, please follow me to respond some of the statement and point which the OG team, the opening government team, has delivered, and followed by my arguments for this matter. So the opening government said that it's not the criminal act is not the sustainable situation that we can provide. And then the first opening government said that behavior is not behavior is the key to provide rehabilitation. So first of all, I need to state that if it's the rehabilitations, maybe it's not as sustainable as it's look, because people in this era are more use their lust against their instead of their moral, because this time we need to provide a coercive way to make good situations in this country. So let me give the example of this. If people if we are give punishments towards the criminal people that do the criminal, we are willing to give their lessons directly, not just indirectly. Because if we do that in the coercive ways, like we have a law in here, we will show that our professionality and our good our best way to provide a simple thing that needs to be done in this country. Like we have a law here. Okay, and if we state about the sustainability, I mean that this kind of coercive way is a good sustainability too, right? Because if we directly, okay.
What is the example of good sustainability of the coercive way? Thank you.
Okay, I think like this. If people do a robbery and then the robber is punished by the law, they will have lessons towards their self, and then they will become more good at that, because in the coercive way, in this sustainability of coercive way, in this era of right now, criminal act is not is a good, I think it's a good way to show to people that governments is a professional thing. And then behavior, although it's okay, it's good of behavior, but behavior is not the simple things that we can give to people. The behavior is a hard thing that we can give to people. So it is there are more lot of people doing such a criminal act and criminal things, I think. So the criminal act here is not just give a behavior thing to them. It will make them give them a lessons towards their lives. Okay, and then I will state my arguments from now on. Indonesia is in a law that first article section 3 said that Indonesia is a country of law, so that people in Indonesia must obey the law. What does it mean? That people in this country always needs to be always obey the law, because it is a must, like that. So here the law itself is must obey, like here from the hadith from Uwah bin Zubair, he said that Prophet SAW said and delivered that, surely destroy before you, when among the respect people who say they are left free of charge or free of charge, but when weak people say they are obligated to oblige, the obligation to oblige had is hudud for the sake of Muhammad, so that was in his hands. So that we think that here Rasulullah said that yes, if we doing such a thing like robbery or something, and if it's just left that like that, there will be some of bad situations in this country. So here from now on, I will say that this house would believe that the best justice for criminal acts is to provide rehabilitation and not a criminal penalty is not a good way. Thank you.
The leader of opposition spent 6 minutes. Thank you. Okay, to respond in the case of the opposition team, please welcome the Deputy Prime Minister. Are you ready?
Yes, inshallah.
Go on.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. As a government team, I'm proud to present and agree to today's motion. One thing I want to say to clarify the opinion of our team first. My first speaker says that rehabilitation is a set of intervention needed when a person is experiencing or is likely to experience limitation in everyday functioning due to a gene or a health condition, including chronic disease or disorders. Then I wanna rebuttal to the opposition teams. The opposition teams said that behavior is a hard thing to change. Then what should you say that? I think with rehabilitation, it will not to the burden on the state. Why it is true, especially in Indonesia, as we can see that the existing prisoners are increasing, not decreasing. This also happens because the economy of the middle to lower class tends to be more numerous, so that the welfare rate in Indonesia is not evenly distributed. This is what causes many crimes. Whereas our country alone cannot afford the burden of prisoners who have been in prison for a long time. What about new prisoners? Is not that adding to the burden on the state? Therefore, we agree with today's motion. With rehabilitation, Indonesia can change a person for the better. Fits the definition of rehabilitation for my first speaker. And also, the rehabilitation has a certain time limit so that the state is not burdened by the number of prisoners available. As in one hadith, albirru husnul khulki wal ithmu mahaka fi sadrika wa karihta an yattali'a alaihin nas. So that is my opinion. And second opinion is justice system in Indonesia isn't always just. Then rehabilitation will give one a chance to learn about his or her debilitating problems and offer for one to learn how to change their behavior in order to not commit crime. Then behavior not a harder thing to change because it's harder because we need to rehabilitation. So before I finish my speech, I want to confide as a representative of my first speaker that we as a government team feel proud and strongly agree with this motion. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To respond the case of the government, please welcome the deputy leader of the opposition.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robbie, and today I represent the opposite team as the deputy leader of the opposition for this debate round. Again, opposite team does not believe the best justice for a criminal act is to provide rehabilitation and not criminal penalty. First of all, please allow me to respond to some of the statement and point which the government team has delivered. So the government team said the pandemic affecting the safety of the prisoner. But have you seen corruptor cell? It is more secure and isolate the prisoner from the infection. And the government team said that the prisoner will not make the criminals learn the lesson, and it is not effective. But but the criminal act is not about imprisonment. There's death penalty, there's social responsibility. So it is have to be regarded from the pandemic issues. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's some argument that I want to share. First, if someone doesn't be punished by the law, the criminal tend to underestimate the law. followed by committing the same mistake over and over again. So the law is meant to make the criminal learning their mistake from their consequences, from the punishment, and prove the society that law is justice and will be served to the criminal. So I want to deliver a hadith from Abu Hurairah. Rasulullah said that Allah cursed a thief who steal an egg and then his hand cut off, as well as stealing rope, and then his hand is cut off. So from this hadith, we can learn that Islam thought a punishment is a solid act to make the criminal learn their lesson. So the second thing is, you said rehabilitation makes people think about his crime and will not make him do the criminal again. But let's see, imprisonment in some way provide those services in a traditional and conventional way, of course. So if your concept of rehabilitation is to make people learn and think about their mistake and avoid these changes of doing it again, to reflect himself from that mistake, so the prison itself, no thank you, so the prison itself provide the traditional and conventional way. Again, I want to deliver from the Holy Quran, Al-Ma'idah, verse 38, that men who steal and women who steal cut off both hands as retribution for what they do, and as a torment from Allah, and Allah is mighty, most wise. So it is important to see that the law should make our country define what is law to be punished by the criminal, like the government team said, like the opposite leader team said before, that Indonesia is a country law. So the law has been, yes, please.
So the law is need to be what happens if those who abuse are the government? Are the law is being inflicted directly?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat it again?
Okay. What happens if the abusers are the government? Since we have unjust government, what happened to them? Are the punishment as equal to people?
Order. Stop order.
Okay. Thank you very much. So as I said, that the prisoner, that we are a nation, a law country. So the law is being written ideally. So ideally, the punishment should be just and equally to all of the defendant or the criminal. That is the right solution. So ladies and gentlemen, like I said, the opposite team is solid. My statement is clear and solid. The criminal penalty is more important than rehabilitation. It is important to see this matter from others' perspective. And last thing, I want you to question and think about, how can someone learn a lesson if there's no lesson or consequences at all? So that's all for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And then to continue the case of the government, please welcome the member of the government. Are you there?
Present.
Okay, please.
Thank you, judges, for the time. My name is Prophet Haziza as a member of government. And before I start my arguments, I would like to rebuttal the statement of the deputy leader opposition first. Deputy leader opposition said that in one of his statements that coercive punishment is a certain way in Islam to make justice. But in our religion, in Islam, we also know that our God, Allah is the merciful, the forgiving, the most forgiving. And therefore, in Quran, Surah Az-Zumar, ayah 53, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qul ya ibadai alladzina asrafu ala anfusihim la taqnatu min rahmatillah innallaha yaghfiru dzunuba jami'an innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Translated as say, O Prophet, that Allah says, O my servants who have exceeded the limits against their souls, do not lose hope in Allah's mercy, for Allah certainly forgives all sins. He is indeed the all-forgiving, most merciful. So, I would like to say that punishment is not the ideal way to do justice or to provide or to put it into the right way. Because instead, beside laws, we also have rehabilitation, and rehabilitation means we guide those abusers to not doing the same mistake again. The justice don't provide that kind of thing. They just say the imprisonment will make the abusers, the prisoners, realize what they did wrong, but they don't really provide the facility to make them realize that. And criminal punishment won't stop the cycle of drug abuse because there is no realization of the abuses, what they are doing or what they did are wrong. When we're talking about drug abuse, it is the cycle we want to stop. And to begin with it, we need to do rehabilitation towards those who abuse it, because they actually are not criminal, but they are sick people who need to be treated the right way and need to be given guidance. And rehabilitation provide those things that I just mentioned. And yes, please.
From what perspective you think that general punishment is not giving same hikmah or same study from the rehabilitation?
Okay, thank you. So I would like to answer your question by saying that when imprisonment happens, it's basically just a person being imprisoned. Their freedom is taken, but they are not given anything to improve themselves to be a better person, let alone provide a rehabilitation to make them realize and make them want to change themselves, productive activities that could really lead them to a better personality. And question solution, just the justice. It does the justice, but does it solve the problem that already happened? No, rehabilitation prevents the same occurrence of drug abuse happen again, and therefore creating sustainable solution, as the Prime Minister said on her previous speech. And from that speech, I do believe, and I still strongly believe that justice for criminal act, and the best justice to criminal act is to provide rehabilitation, because it creates a sustainable solution and it prevents the same occurrence of happening again, and it does make an improvement for those who are abusing the drugs, because we provide the rehabilitation, and therefore I strongly believe that rehabilitation is the best justice, or is the best solution to deal with justice in the case of drugs abuse, in the case of in spite of criminal penalty. And for that, I end my speech. Thank you.
Okay. To respond the case of the government, please welcome the member of the opposition. Member of the opposition, are you ready? For speaker closing opposition. Hello, you there? Member of the opposition. Where's the member of the opposition?
I think there is a problem with your connection, and I can play that role.
Okay, please.
Okay. Thanks for the chance to me, Fatan, as a member of opposition, to give my statement or speech this kind of problem. And I'd like to talk about that. What government say is doesn't make any sense because from our perspective, this case in this case rehabilitation is cannot be done in every case in criminal and doesn't give justice to the person that affected. Like in the Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 197, walakum fil qisas hayat lalakum ya ulil albab lalakum tattaqun. There's security of life if we do the jarima qisas or the general punishment that we're talking about, not rehabilitation, because rehabilitation is after the crime, after the act, not before the act. So uh, we cannot take the interpretation that this kind of act is violated the human right or the rules that have been done, and we cannot also justify that the error in our justice system is
POI.
okay.
As far as I know, kisas can be done by fulfilling some steps. Could you explain those steps? Thank you. I'm sorry, is he freezing?
Yes, can you repeat that because my connection is unstable, so I can hear it clearly.
I'm sorry before. So you didn't hear my question before?
Yes.
Order.
Can I repeat it again? Is the connection still bad?
Sorry, can you repeat it? Just to the point. Okay, maybe check. Can my voice can be heard?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Maybe I can I know like that question that she asked me about kisos, and the kisos is kind of replied. Uh, my answer is clear that jarima kisos is a kind of jarima or punishment that Allah teach us, and Rasulullah also guide us. And the reason why I bring this term is because in Islam we cannot face or solve the problem of cases in general ways or in the same way. In this term is rehabilitation. We cannot do rehabilitation in every cases. Maybe for example, like the case of murder, rape, and human trafficking. We cannot do rehabilitation for them. We cannot do justice if we just do rehabilitation in this kind of
QI,
people. We need to, okay.
please be specific because you are talking about the drugs, not any other things. Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Please be specific because you're talking about drugs abuse, not any other crime. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. You're talking about that case. Uh, in terms of punishment or penalty, we cannot do just rehabilitation because rehabilitation, in my point, is can be done after the case, after the act, not before the act, because we cannot do rehabilitation in normal people. We do rehabilitation in people that has problem in their mental health or in this violence against law. We cannot do rehabilitation before the act. So it's not really prevent that you can that the speaker said, the government said that rehabilitation can prevent the criminal. It's cannot be, it's logically incorrect because rehabilitation is can be done after, not before. And from that perspective, my point is clear and my stand is firm. We can not do justice if we
QI,
just do rehabilitation.
I want
Okay.
to clarify that I said rehabilitation is a preventive solutions and it's done after the crime is being committed, not before. Thank you.
Even if it's done after the crime committed, it cannot prevent because people cannot see them as a act of violation. People see them as a incorrectly people behavior, and we can just do the rehabilitation or something like education that we do in our children, in our students, that we just teach them about what is good and what is bad. This kind of education is not very well if we are talking about how punishment is good in the
QI,
Criminalization Act. Okay.
I believe you misunderstood rehabilitation terms because it is done after the crime is being conducted, not before it. So rehabilitation cannot be done to those who didn't commit crime. Thank you.
Yes, I clearly understand about that. That you said that rehabilitation can be done after the crime is committed, but what I trying to speak is we cannot do justice to the people that affected by this crime because this kind of treatment is the same like you teach your student or teach your children about what is good and what is bad in your life, and doesn't give anything about that this kind of act is cannot be done and uh, prohibited in all of fields, the justice view, and not do the criminal that can be safely now to our life, because everything you do, if it bad, you just take the rehabilitation, not the some kind of punishment. You don't lose anything. You you don't lose anything, and that can is incorrect, and I cannot uh, solve with it. Thank you.
Okay. To close the case of the government, please welcome the government whip.
Yes.
Are you there?
Are my voice here? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
I'm sorry that I cannot use on camera because of my internet.
Okay, go on.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Iza Ashaida, and I will be the last speaker of the government team. Again, we want to state that our team is still believe that the best justice for a criminal act is to provide rehabilitations and not a criminal penalty. So first, I will summarize today's debate. First, the government has said that punishing criminals for nowadays, like especially today in COVID-19 era, is not sustainable, and they don't. It will burden the community. They don't want. It will burden the community. So it's about the sustainable. And the second one is that criminal penalty are or we choose not to rehabilitate. Sometimes in government, the law is unjust, like the first government said, and then the opposition said that giving punishment will give the lesson directly to the criminal, but this is wrong because our team, the government has already said that giving lesson and just imprison them is not will not realizing giving them realizations because they just being imprisoned, not being educated. If we do the rehabilitation system, it will educate the prisoner itself, and it can change the criminal and behavior itself. It's not it may be hard to be changed, but it's not impossible. So we choose to rehabilitate either rather than a criminal penalty. And then for the next opposition side that there is a qisas in Islam, and it means that criminals have the rights to be punished, but what Islam is Indonesia is not using that. And then again this closing government said that rehabilitation won't stop the cycle of drug abusers, and it won't stop until the abuser is cured. And why and how do we cure the abuser? We can cure them with education in rehabilitation. again, if we use rehabilitation for our solutions to to decrease the criminal rate in Indonesia, I think it will be a good solution because the criminals itself learn and not like a prison that when they just in prison, and maybe they can also speak with each other prisoner, and it's not going to make them learn. They just learn from the same the from the other criminal, and it's not going to make them be a better person. So for that, I as a closing government again will state that rehabilitations is the correct solutions and not a criminal penalty. Thank you.
Okay. To close the case of the opposition and to close the whole debate, please welcome the opposition whip. Opposition whip. Opposition whip, are you there? Opposition whip. Where is him?
Take that responsibility.
Okay. Please.
Yeah. First, I'm sorry with the situation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I want to introduce myself again. My name is Sultan. I saw your position. Uh, in this part, I want to conclude about we have to educate them. We have to educate the criminal. We cannot do that education because if not do the same justice or penalty, and it's clearly known that in Islam itself it is that we have different treatment in different case. We cannot do rehabilitation in every case, even though that we want to educate them because if we uh, penalty them, they cannot educate themselves. Uh, at least we can educate people outside the jail that kind of act is prohibited and violate the law. And every time you said about how rehabilitation can change the system, can uh, because criminal penalty in Indonesia doesn't work well, it doesn't make any sense because the problem is system, not the type of treatment. And you just repeat it and repeat without any consideration about my first opposition talking about that behavior is hard to change because people like some kind of sociopath or maniac that rapes a lot of women, human trafficking a lot of children, murdering, thief, and any kind of very evil kind of act. We cannot educate them, and because we are not the consultant, psychologist consultant, we are the lawyer, we are the person that need acts against the law, need do the justice, not need to do the education because education is a different stage in human life. And in this kind of debate, we are talking about how we treat this, how we treat this kind of people that had committed crime and make a lot of mistakes and we also need considering to how the affected people or victim feels about this kind of treatment. We can position ourselves as a victim and see that criminal just be done teaching by some kind of people, not to punish from our perspective, and it's really violate their feeling because there's no justice if we just educate themselves and not do the concrete or clear punishment or penalty that give loss and affecting uh, the criminal. And from that perspective, my statement is clear, and my state is also firm that I will recommend it in everyone that participating in this forum that criminal penalty is the best choice to do the justice in this world, because rehabilitation cannot work well in this world because rehabilitation is can be done after and cannot be done before, and also doesn't work well in the victim feeling. That's it for my perspective, and that's my speech. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, by the end of the speech of the opposition whip, therefore, this round of English debate is ended. And before we end the debate, we will now watch with regard for first a video from our sponsor, Zakat Sukses. We'll watch a bit of a video before we end. And after the video, the whole round is ended, and after that, we will go to general commentary and the decision. It will take approximately 15 minutes for the juries to discuss about the decision of this round, and then there will be a bit of feedback.
Zakat Sukses merupakan lembaga pengelola zakat yang fokus pada program pemberdayaan duafa. Didirikan pada tahun 2011, Zakat Sukses bergerak pada 5 pilar program, yakni pendidikan, kesehatan, pemberdayaan, sosial kemanusiaan, dan dakwah. Zakat Sukses percaya, berawal dari pendidikan yang baik, maka akan tercipta kesejahteraan dalam berbagai bidang. Untuk itu, Zakat Sukses berkomitmen mencerdaskan anak bangsa melalui program pendidikan baik sarana maupun prasarana. Program kesehatan yang digulirkan oleh Zakat Sukses merupakan upaya untuk mensejahterakan masyarakat melalui bidang kesehatan. Fokus Zakat Sukses 5 tahun ke depan adalah memberdayakan warga melalui berbagai program pemberdayaan ekonomi. Langkah ini dilakukan untuk membantu masyarakat keluar dari zona kemiskinan yang juga sejalan dengan tujuan pembangunan nasional atau Sustainable Development Goals. Badan Nasional Penanggulangan Bencana (BNPB) mencatat selama tahun 2019 terjadi 3.721 bencana di Indonesia. Zakat Sukses merespon berbagai kejadian tersebut melalui berbagai program kemanusiaan. Program dakwah mencakup semua kegiatan yang bersifat pembinaan keagamaan, baik dilakukan secara reguler maupun tahunan seperti Ramadan dan Kurban. Dengan tekad yang kuat, kami hadir sebagai lembaga pengelola zakat, infak, sedekah, dan menjadikan ZIS sebagai pilar kokoh penopang kemuliaan dan kesejahteraan umat. Lewat program-program yang kami jalankan, manfaat pendayagunaan dana ZIS akan terasa menyeluruh dan tepat sasaran. Dari tahun ke tahun, hampir seluruh indikator mengalami pertumbuhan yang cukup signifikan, di antaranya pertumbuhan donatur dan penerima manfaat. Hal tersebut membuat total pendayagunaan dana zakat, infak, sedekah, baik penghimpunan ataupun penyaluran, meningkat dari tahun-tahun sebelumnya. Pada tahun 2019, Zakat Sukses telah menyelesaikan proses audit keuangan oleh tim audit independen dengan predikat wajar tanpa pengecualian.
Alhamdulillah, it's at the end of the final round of MTQ English debate. We would like to say thank you for your attention and see you on the closing ceremony. For the participants, soon we'll be back with the general commentary and the decision from the Board of Juries. Akhirul qouli, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
For participants, wait for a second. Wait a second.